Hi all, a very good morning. So in our last class, we were looking forward with the S3 section of our course, and we were able to see what are the basics of storage in terms of object-based storage and the block-based storage. And then we learned in little more detail about S3 section, that is simple storage service. We learned that the S3 has three different tiers of storage, right? That is S3 standard, S3 infrequent access, and the RRS, that is reduced redundancy storage. And we also learned how each of these types are actually helping us to save the cost specifically. Right now, today we are going to learn a little more detail. So yesterday we just learned about what is a bucket. Inside the bucket, how would I be able to upload a object? And then we saw that each object has got certain level of properties and the permissions. Similarly, the bucket has got properties and the permissions and the management part. So we are going to learn in detail about all of these parameters. So first, what we are going to do is we are going to looking at the object properties. So let me go into one of my buckets here. I have several buckets in this case here. I'm going to open up one of the bucket with the name AWS Training-2017. In this, there are certain objects which are already uploaded. Now we know how to upload an object. If I click on the upload button here, it is going to ask me to select the files. So I'll click on the add files button, and I can go down and select a file from this specific list. Let's say I would like to select one file like this PEM file, and then you can straight away go ahead and click on upload. This is the first method, or you can also go ahead and click the button next, where you are able to see the permissions and then the properties, and then you can review what I am trying to do here. So first we'll try to upload the normal method. I just selected the file and went ahead and clicked it to say upload. You guys should be able to see the progress of the specific object on the below bar, which says it is success. I'll just go ahead and see here. I'll refresh this. Yeah, here we have TCS keypair, first keypair.pem file, which is just uploaded 7 hours 18 minutes early in the morning at November 28. Now let's try uploading it in other way. So I go ahead and click on add file. I'll go to my pictures folder. I'll just pick up some picture and click on next. Here basically it is asking me permissions. So in permissions, basically I'll be able to define who all will have access to this specific object. So by default, myself as a owner will have full access, right? So apart from that, whom else I would like to give access to, right? So we have option to add other AWS accounts, or I can also completely make the object to be public, right? So if I click on grant public read access, so it is going to make this object available to everyone in the world. So that is one option, or maybe you can go ahead and add a couple of AWS accounts who are going to have limited set of access, which could be like only read or read and write, or you can also give the permissions of this specific object. So what does the object permission mean? It just means that you are also giving them a option to add other people, right? So if I say write object permissions, which means they also have the authority to go ahead and update the object as well as grant the permissions to this object to someone else as well, right? So this object permissions here just means that they also have the access as same as me to give access to this object to third party people.
Hi, Pawan.
Yeah, hi Shiva.
Yeah, here we can give us a specific group instead of user. If you want to give a specific group to access this particular object,
Mhm.
to a entire group can access this object. Can we go from here?
You're talking about the users that we add in our
Yes,
IAM.
yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
instead of here giving a user, one user, can we give a specific group?
for that
A
we'll
group of
use
people can access this specific object.
yes, yes. Group of people can access it. So basically, we use the bucket policy.
Okay, okay.
So here, I'll leave everything default for now and go to the next. I'll clear this. So currently, I have not given permissions to anything. So it is just going to remain private and it's going to remain as a full access only to my ID. And then it is going to ask me to set the properties for the storage. So in storage, we have learned about three different classes. So by default, whatever we are going to upload is going to be part of standard. And in case if I want, I can move them to standard infrequent access or the reduced redundancy as well. So for now, I'll just keep the standard. In encryption, we have two different types. Amazon S3 master key encryption, that is called as SSE S3. And we also have AWS KMS, that is key management service. So we are going to learn in detail about the encryption, how it actually works. But just to give you a very short overview here, if I click on Amazon S3 master key, it is automatically going to encrypt it. So I'm not going to provide any key. Automatically, Amazon is going to create a key with which it is going to encrypt the object for me. But if I go for AWS KMS, I get an option to select my key. Specifically, I have one here, AWS/S3. So you can get your key created in the IAM section, and that key can be used here for the encryption. And then the metadata. As we all know, metadata is nothing but data about the data. So specifically, in case if you want to add a header or something as such here, like what is the type of the content? If it is an image, you'll go ahead and say image or something as such, or maybe want to give it the extension .png. So content type, you can select here from the drop down. So maybe you can select whatever is it. If it is an image with a JPG, you are selecting image/JPG or image/PNG or something as such. Or if you want to add some more headers as well, like language or expiring or content disposition or something as such, so you will be able to add other methods in case if you want to add, but we don't use them much. Automatically, the S3 has the ability to find out the header of this specific object. And then the tags are basically helping us to organize the data, as well help us to search in case if we are lost. As well, they also help us to manage the cost across the complete AWS account. Now, how does that help? So we are going to learn about that in little more detail. So for now, I'll just keep everything default, encryption as a none, storage class as standard, and then metadata. I'm not going to give anything here, and then go ahead and say next. Clear this, and then go ahead and say upload. So there we go. It is now uploaded. So if I click on walker.jpg, I do get a link. But do you think we'll be able to get it across? I'll just open it in new tab. So there we go. It says by default it is denied because we are not given access to anyone to look through. Even I have access, but this is a public link which I'm trying to access. Right? So if I want to access the object, it is simple. I can click on download and I'll be able to get through. But others will not even be able to get this section of going into the AWS in 2017 bucket and obtain my image. Right? So currently it is private in nature. So whatever object you're going to upload, by default it is going to be private in nature. Explicitly we have to open up the path to make it as public. So I'll click on make public. So now it is done. So if I go back to this link and refresh it back, you see the image is going to load through. Let me pass the link to you guys also on the chat box. Maybe you guys can also check it out and let me know if it works for you. How about others? It works for them as well. How about you, Divya and Kirti? Does it work for you guys? Yeah. So we made it public. So it is helping each of you guys to look at the file. Now we are going to learn in a little more detail. I'll go in the bucket. I'll go inside a specific object here. So we are first going to explore what is object properties and then the permissions. Object properties, first thing we are going to look is in the storage class. So we all know that there are three different types of storage classes, that is standard infrequent access and the reduced redundancy. You should be able to change the storage class of object at any moment of time. So by default, if you're going to upload the object normally to the bucket, it is going to be S3 standard itself. However, you can change the storage class at any point of time from standard to infrequent access or from infrequent access to the reduced redundancy. As well, while you're trying to upload, you can also change it at that moment of time. And then secondly, we have encryption. So as I just said, there are two different types. We have AES-256 and KMS as a part of encrypting this specific object. So before we go and do this, let me show you the different types of encryption we have available and what can we do with it. Now there are basically two different types of encryption, right? So first is while the data is in transit. Now when I am talking to you guys on this specific GoTo meeting at this moment of time, this is a real time session, right? So the data is being transferred from one point to other. Maybe I am in different location, you guys are also in some different location, right? So still the data is getting transferred from one point to second point. So data is being is in transit. So how do we specifically ensure that the data is encrypted while being in transit? For that, we basically use the methods of SSL or TLS. Now, specifically to give you one more example, now if I go to any website like Amazon.in or Flipkart.com, at the end of the cart, right? So if I have put some item in the cart, if I want to purchase it, what should I do? I need to pay the money for it. So specifically, I enter my credit card or debit card details, and then from there, looking at those details, it is going down to some other page where it is going to ask me my secure code or the OTP, and then it is going to finally give me a success page of the transaction has been completed, right? But still, a lot of people across the world fear about putting down their credit card details while trying to do an online transaction, because they are not sure if the details stored are secure or not. What if someone tries to hack the details, right? So that is when this SSL or TLS encryption comes into picture. So it is safe to store the credit card details only at those places where you find that the website comes with a HTTPS connections, and you will be able to see secure, right? So all the places where you see HTTPS connections and then the secure with a lock symbol, which means this specific website, here it says that your information, for example passwords or credit card numbers, are private, which is sent to this site. So if I'm trying to use this site and send my credit card details or anything, passwords, something as such, it is going to be safe because they are trying to encrypt the data before it is being sent from my system to other place. So that is how I'll be able to help in to see if there is any problem with the data. Now there are certain websites, like one of them, I'll give you an example here. There is one example like fashion2hub.com. So this appears like an e-commerce website, but if I go down and see, it is asking me to go ahead and purchase this, which is actually coming at very low price. But this is not true. If I go ahead and check out the information here about this website, it says the connection to this website is never secure. You should not enter any sensitive information on this site, right? So Google is trying to actually help us by helping us, let us know which are the secure connections, which of them are not. So always keep an eye on whatever kind of new websites you open up, whether the connection is secure or not. So if you go ahead and check out for anything like Flipkart or Amazon or even the Facebook or anything as such, you will see that everything comes with a HTTPS connections, which are basically secure. So I can, without any doubt, go ahead and place an order by passing my credit card details. So while the data is in transit, there are two ways, that is SSL and TLS. So these are the two methods to encrypt the data while I'm trying to send it from one portion to other. Now, if the data is at rest, which means if the data is already stored in hard disk, or maybe if the data is already stored in the S3 buckets or somewhere else, how do I actually go ahead and encrypt? So there are two methods: server-side encryption and the client-side encryption. Now, server-side encryption has got three different steps. First is S3 managed keys, which is called as SSC S3. So what happens in this case? Let me open the notepad. Yeah, so we'll check out here. So in encryption, we are talking about the first method, that is SSC S3. Now what happens in this case here is, I have an object. Basically, I am using a key to encrypt the object, but this key itself is encrypted with some other key, right? And this is completely stored by Amazon. It is not going to give us any access in this case here. So that is what is happening in the S3 first part. So if you select on AES 256 encryption, it is nothing but Amazon S3 server-side encryption. That is the first method that we are just going to learn about. Amazon S3, SSC S3, which means Amazon S3 server-side encryption. So in this case, what is happening? I have an object which is actually encrypted using a key, and this key itself is completely encrypted using some other key, right? So when I go ahead and click in my console that I want to use AES 256 encryption and then say save, so Amazon has automatically created a key for me, and that key is also encrypted by something else, and it has also encrypted finally my object as well. So Amazon is following the standards of AES 256 encryption, which is highest till date available in the market at this moment of time for the encryption. And if we talk about the next one, that is AWS KMS, we call it as SSC KMS as well, server side encryption with KMS. KMS is basically key management service. So that is the next one, AWS key management service, which is also called as SSC KMS. Now what happens in this case? In this case also everything remains same as the way we had actually in the above case. So I have an object, it gets encrypted with the help of a key, and this key itself is encrypted by some other key itself. Now there is one added advantage that we are actually going to get in this specific case. So what is that added advantage here? Advantage here will be I have an option to create the key for myself. So if I go to IAM section here, the page is loading up of the IAM. So here if you see, I do get an option to go ahead and create my own encryption keys by clicking on get started now. So this is going to create a KMS. This key is basically used for the KMS encryption method. Now what happens in this case? So I'm going to create my own keys here, as you see the first step, and then you are going to use this key to encrypt your data, and then you will also be able to see who has used this key at what point of time. Basically I have to pass the keys to all the people to whom I want to give access to this specific object. So with the help of this, what I'll be able to see, I'll also be able to see who has used this specific key to decrypt the object at what point of time, from which IP address, from which machine, and other things, right? So this, it gives me a detailed log, who all are trying to access my object, from which location, from which IP address, on so and so time, so and so date. So that is going to give me a detailed log. So that is extra thing that we basically get along with the AWS KMS. So I get a detailed log, right? So adding to what we get from SSC S3, I get a detailed log as an extra portion in the AWS KMS. And also we get an option to create our own encryption key, but that will be again automatically stored on the Amazon S3 itself. I get option to download, and I'll be able to pass that key to all the people to whom I want to give access to this specific object. So that was about SSC S3 and KMS, and these are the two methods that are available as a part of our encryption in the S3 bucket. One second. Okay, so those are the encryption methods that we have available. That is AES-256, that we call it as SSC S3, server-side encryption with S3, and AWS KMS, that is encryption with the keys. So basically we can create the keys in the IAM section part, and that keys we will be able to use it here to encrypt the object. And the third method here, in this case, we have server-side encryption with the customer provided keys. Now you can create the key in your own computer and send it to Amazon, and then you can do the server-side encryption of the objects with your own keys. So what happens in this case here? So this is the object, So you are going to provide a key, right, with which you are going to actually encrypt the object. So this key with which you are going to encrypt it is something provided by the customer itself. And then the last part, that is client side encryption. In client side encryption, what happens is, basically, let's say I have all these devices in my laptop, right? So these image files or something, all we see, right? So I have this PPT files, I have got a lot of images and other things. So I'll encrypt on my system itself, and then before sending it to Amazon S3, I'm going to encrypt in my system itself. So I encrypt the object and then I send it to S3, right? So that is basically the last method, that is client side encryption. So in encryption, we have two different types, basically. In transit, so while the data is in transit, I need to encrypt it. Also, while the data is at rest, I need to transit it. So when the data is in transit, we basically use the SSL or TLS methods, and while the data is at rest, we are basically trying to use the server side encryption or the client side encryption. In server side encryption, again, I have three different types. There is S3 managed keys, which is called as SSC S3, AWS key management service, that is SSC KMS, and then the server side encryption with the customer provided keys, that is SSC C. So we just learned in little detail on how we can implement each of these methods. So in SSC S3, basically I have an object. Amazon is going to create a key with which it is going to encrypt the object, and this key itself is also encrypted using the some other key. Right? And same thing happens in the KMS as well. I have an object. I use a key to encrypt the object, but this key itself is also encrypted with the some other key. But I get an extra option that this key of encryption is something that we are going to create by ourselves. As well, I'm going to get a detailed log on top of it, which is going to show me who has used this specific key to decrypt the object, at what point of time, from what IP address, and other things. So basically I'll have a log, so who is using my objects. In SSCC, basically we are going to create a key and then provide it to Amazon, and using that we are going to encrypt the specific object. And finally the last one, that is client side encryption, in which I'm going to encrypt the data in my system itself before uploading it to the Amazon S3. So now going back to our bucket, so we just see that there are two methods. So if I use AES256, I don't have to pass anything. I just go ahead and click on save. And if I click close, it says it is now encrypted with the SSC S3 using the AES256 encryption method. And in case if I want to use KMS, it is just going to ask me for a key, and then I can go ahead and click on save, and this is going to encrypt the object with the help of KMS method. Any questions or queries here from any one of you on the encryption part?
Hi, Tom.
Yeah, yes, Shiva.
Yeah, in the encryption point of any charges, additional charges in the data specific, what we have contained object and bucket specific.
Okay, for specifically SSC S3, we don't have any charges as such for using this S3 managed keys. But if you are
Okay.
going to use AWS Key Management Service, that is
Mhm.
KMS, we will have to pay the extra charges, because it is going to give me a specifically audit log, right? So who is using this key at what point of time and other things. For that, I'll have to
Okay.
pay the extra charge.
Okay. Is this going to be entire all three types or only on standard?
These are standard.
Okay. Is this encryption only enabled in standard, right? Option.
No, I didn't get it. Can you come back?
And encryption option only we can enable in standard or reduce redundancy or RRS.
No, 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 no. That will be available for all the cases. It's not like that.
Okay.
So you the
Okay.
standard or infrequent access or R doesn't matter. This
Mhm.
encryption will be available for all the different classes of storage.
Okay. Okay. But we have a different charges for SSC KMS for
KMS.
different storage. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
correct. How about Divya and Rahul? Are you guys able to follow it up? How about you, Rahul? Are you able to get through the topics? Okay. Next, we will talk about the metadata. So as I said, metadata is automatically obtained by the Amazon itself. So the tool is intelligent enough to identify what kind of object I'm trying to upload, right? So here it is automatically finding out that whatever I have uploaded is basically an image and it is of type JPEG. I have not given any specific metadata here. In case you want, you can experiment with one more data here. I'll just go ahead and upload one more onto this bucket. I'll just click on upload here, click on add files. I'll go back, I'll pick up this image and then I'll just go ahead and say upload. So it is uploading the image. There we go. Now the image is uploaded. It is of size 490 KB and it is been shown up here. If I go ahead and click on this, you see it is with extension .jpg. We should be able to see in the properties of metadata that it has got JPEG, right? So we have never made any changes. Automatically it has received the metadata. Now let's say in case it doesn't receive, or if you want to add a specific metadata to this object, you will be able to add it as well, right? So if you want to add some metadata by yourself, because it actually helps sometimes to, while we are trying to use some software development kits, it makes it easier to find me out. Or if I'm trying to try to share something across with the other people, maybe let's say I just want to share only the image files in this bucket, that is with star.jpg, right? So that also makes it easy with the help of metadata. So I can add my own metadata tags along with the existing one. So for now, I'll just go ahead and close this, and that is about the metadata. Okay, now the question here, we have one of the question here. So can we upload a object and does it have any size limit? So the object that we are going to upload does not have a size limit. It is only up to a specific 5 TB. So if I'm going to upload a single file, it can be of maximum size of 5 TB. Let's say if I upload this object, this can be of maximum 5 TB in size. It is 5 terabytes, right? So that is very huge size in order for any specific object. And number of objects inside the bucket, there is specifically no limit. I can upload unlimited objects to my S3 bucket. There is no specific limit on the number of objects they want to go ahead and upload it. And finally, the last part, we have tags here. Tags are basically the user-friendly names that we can actually give it to a S3 bucket. Now we are going to give this to a specific object. So what does this tag do? So I'll give the tag, let's say something as name, and or maybe I can just give it as owner, and then I'll just give it my name. I'm the owner of this specific object, and then I can also see maybe I'm belonging to some developers team, and this is part of that, and I can go ahead and add it. So tags are basically key value pairs. You need to define what is a key. You also need to define what is the value that key is going to consist of. So specifically in this case, I added two different tags. The key here is owner and key here is team, and the value for the owner is basically Pawan and the value for the team is basically developers. So this is basically a key value pair where you can define your own key and you can also define the value in that specific key. Now, how does this actually help me to organize the data? How does it actually help me to manage the costing? It is very simple here. Now let's say I'll go ahead and click on save this. If I scroll to the top of the page, here you can see the resource groups. In this, there is something called tag editor. So if I go ahead and click on open in new tab, so let's say now that you have created some resource in AWS, now you forget where you have created. Currently S3 is like global region, but if you are going to play with other services like virtual machines, which is called as EC2, or maybe RDS, that is called as database, or maybe EFS, which is called as file system. So there are a lot of services that we are going to explore. Maybe in that time we will be in different regions, right? So specifically I will be launching my virtual machines only in Mumbai, or maybe only in Ohio, or maybe in North Virginia, or some other places. Now I might sometimes forget in which region actually I have spinned up the virtual server. So if I have to find out it, it at a very easier format, this tag editor is going to help me up. So that's why they say always go ahead and keep the tags wherever possible for your objects or anything that you spin up on the AWS console. Now for this specific object we have kept a couple of things like owner as and team as developers, right? When I go down to here, I can just select all the regions. So maybe I'm not sure where it is being staying, and then I can select the resource types. So currently we are in S3, so we can go ahead and select the S3 here. So currently it is available only for the buckets. It is still not available for the objects. They might include it in very soon, because this feature has recently come up 1 week back. These tags were not available for specific object. For bucket, we also have the tags. Here it is. For buckets, you can always set up a tag here. Maybe let's say I'll say keep it as team. This is for AWS training team. Say save. Now let's come back to tag editor. Now let's say I want to find out something in S3 bucket. I know that I have actually created with the team name, and that was with the name of AWS training. I'm not sure where that bucket exists or where it is lost. So I can just go ahead and say find resources. So it is going to find across all the regions in the S3 bucket and let me know that this S3 bucket is actually existing with the team of AWS training, right? So with the help of this, I'll be able to easily navigate across to any object or any resource that is actually lost in the AWS section, right? So it actually helps me to organize the data as well. It can help me to manage the cost. Now with the help of this naming convention, we can organize the data. How we can organize? Now I can create a resource group as well. We have something called as a resource group which can be created. Now if you see, I have created a lot of resource group. One of them is for testing team, one of them is for developers A, some of them are for developers team A, J, X, something as such. Similarly, you can click on resource group. So with this, what you can do is you can create your own resource group. Let's say I want to create a resource group for my team, which is actually known as AWS training. And then I'm going to select a tag. I'll just say name and then the AWS training, and I'll say all regions, and all resource types. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and say save. So when I save this, so you see here it is going to show me the complete set of details, what all is being used by this specific team with the name AWS training in all the 14 regions. It is going to show me all the for all the different resources what all is being currently used, right? So in some time we'll be able to see that in currently it is at EC2 section. So it is going to refresh each and every portion and is going to give me an overview here that this team is using so and so number of buckets, so many number of virtual instances, so many number of databases or something else, right? So with the help of this, I'll be able to easily get an information on what each team is basically using. So any questions here on the tags part? Divya, Kirti, Shiva, any questions here on the part of tags? Okay, so now we'll quickly come back to S3 console. So that was the information about the tags. Next, talking about the permissions of a specific object, we basically have two different levels as we just discussed some time back when we were trying to upload object. One of them is giving access to other AWS accounts, or if I want to make the access publicly available. So if I click on everyone here, this is going to make this object publicly available. So it is going to ask me, would you like to give read permissions to everyone? I can say yes, and then go ahead and say save. So this is going to make object publicly available for everyone. So I can just go down to the properties and then go down to the overview, pick up this link, and when I click on open tab, open in the new tab, you will be able to see that the image is now available for usage for everyone. And here we also have something called as read object permissions and the write object permissions, right? So this is nothing but, let's say if I go ahead and add one more AWS account here, let's say it is an AWS account of one of yours. I'll enter some random number. Now if I say read object, you will be only able to read the object. If I say read object permissions, it means you will be able to see the list of people who are having access to this specific object as well, right? You can only see it, but if I want to give you permissions to modify, then I have to give write object permissions. So if I give this AWS account number, and if I say you have read object permissions and as well as the write object permissions, which means you have the access to grant access to other people to help them access this specific object. That is the only difference between this read object and the read object permissions. So if you just enable read object, then you will be able to read the object. But if I give you the permissions, then you also have the authority to give the access to other people as well. So that was about the permissions part. Any questions here before we can move to the next part of the properties of bucket? Okay. So now we learned about what is a object, what are the different properties of object. So we learned what is a object, what are the different properties of object, and what are the permissions of a object. Now let's go down to the bucket and look out what are the properties of a bucket, what are the permission levels of a bucket, and what can we do in the management part of the bucket. So as a part of properties, overall we have 9 different types of properties on this specific bucket. We all already know one of it. It is tags, right? So tags basically help us to give a user-friendly name and help us to organize the data. Now, with the help of tags, we can also find out how much billing that each team is doing. So, because if you have seen just now resource groups, right, it might help me to give me an overview that so many virtual instances are being used by this team, so many things are being used by so many databases are being used. So based upon that, I'll be able to calculate how much billing is been applicable for this team as well. Right. So tags not just help me to organize the data, but also help me with managing the cost to a specific team. Now, the very first thing here, if you see, is versioning. Now, what is versioning? Versioning is basically keeping the different versions of its object in this bucket. Now, let's say we all are working in a team and we all are working on a same piece of document. First, I upload the document which is of version 1, in which I have written a couple of lines into the file, and then I have uploaded it up. Now, you guys are also working on same file, but maybe some different content in the file. Let's say we all have to add some content into the file, and then we have to collaborate, and then we have to update it across the S3 bucket. But maybe our collaboration went out of sync and everyone is trying to upload their own file onto the S3 bucket. So if I have uploaded a file which has got, let's say, 4 lines inside that as a text file, and I have uploaded it, let's say someone else has also completed the work and they are trying to go ahead and upload the same file with the same file name, then what happens in that case? So it gets overwritten with the latest one, right? So I lose the old one which I have uploaded. Now, if I want to store each and every version of the object, I can enable this versioning. So by enabling this version, it is going to store each and every version of the object. So whatever I have uploaded, that will also exist. Whatever you guys have uploaded, that will also exist as such. So it is going to store each and every version of the object. So by default, whenever you are going to create a new bucket, this will be in suspended versioning, right? So it will be in suspended mode. You have to go ahead and apply enable versioning and then click on save, so that is going to enable the versioning on my bucket. Now let me show you what happens if it is in suspended mode, how the UI appears. Okay, I'll not be able to do for this bucket. I'll just go down to some other bucket. Okay, currently there is no versioning enabled on this. So if we click on this, currently it is in suspended mode. I'm going to go ahead and enable it. Okay, before we go ahead and enable it, if you see the UI of a bucket, it is basically going to show you the options, that is upload, create folder, and then it is going to show you more, with the help of which you will be able to get a few more options. And then it's going to show you what the data is existing here and where does it exist. It is in US North Virginia, US East, and if I refresh it, it's going to refresh the specific screen. Now when I go ahead and upload, click on properties and say versioning, and then say enable it, and then say save. Now if I go back to overview, you see there's a new button that is coming up here, versions, hide and show. So basically this is going to help me with the all the versions to be available. Now let's go inside this folder with the name 2017 and then 11. I have got multiple files, right? So by default versions will be at hide. If I click on show, so it's basically showing me that for each object which is available in this bucket at this moment of time, there's only one version which is available, and currently there is no version ID. This is because I have already uploaded these objects before enabling the versioning. Now let's say I want to upload a new object here. Let's see what is the version ID it is going to get. I upload a very small image of 200 KB, let's say. So it has started it. You can see the progress at the bar below. So there you go. If you see the last image here, which has been just uploaded on November 28 at 8:06 a.m., you are able to see that there is a version ID. So once the versioning is enabled, and if you are going to upload any object after that, all those objects are going to get a specific version ID, so that it can help you to keep a track of different versions available for this object. So now what we'll do is we'll quickly create one text file. I'll just say this is version 1 and I'll go ahead and save this. So version-lab.txt is the name of the file, which I'm going to go ahead and upload. So it is of 17 bytes currently. So it has been uploaded. If I go down here, yeah, you can see the first file with the name version-lab.txt. It has been just uploaded and currently it has got a version ID, so which can actually help me to find out. Okay, now let's say I'm going to edit the same file here. I'll go back to the E drive. Now someone else has also used the same file itself, and then they have added one more line. They're saying this is version 2, and then they save it. Now I'll quickly go ahead and upload back. Now the size is double, it is 38 bytes. So you see that the version-lab.txt has got two different versions. So versioning is going to store each and every version of the object. So it is going to occupy the space of each and every version. So in this case, if I talk about the version-lab.txt file, it is going to occupy a space of 54 bytes overall, or 55 it comes on sometimes, yeah. So it is going to occupy 51 bytes here. So that is the total size, because 38 bytes is one file, 17 bytes is other version which is being occupying it. So overall it is going to occupy a space of 51 bytes. So always remember, when you're going to enable the versioning on any bucket, always define your use case. Why do you want to use it? Because if you are going to store something like media files, let's say each media file will be like some, if you're trying to store some video or something, now each video will be of minimum size of 100 MB or 200 MB as such, right? So if you are going to put across into the versioning, and if you are trying to update the version every day maybe as such, then the use case in this will be like you are going to occupy a lot of space, and that can actually also incur a lot of costs onto your S3 bucket. But of course, if company is okay to pay for it, then you can always enable it, because you want to store each and every version of the object. Now, if I click on hide here, I'll be able to only see the latest version, which is of 38 bytes. But if I click on version show, it is going to show me both the versions, that is first version and the second version as well. Now, let's say someone has kept it version as a hide and someone went ahead and deleted this file. So let's delete it. Now I will refresh it. So you see that specific file itself is gone. There is no file with the name version-lab.txt itself. It is completely lost from the UI screen. So how do we get it back? So if I click on show versions as show, it is going to show me that there was a file with the name version-lab.txt which has got a couple of versions, but currently it has been placed with a delete marker, which means this file has been marked for deletion. Now if I want to recover this file, it is very easy. Click on this delete marker and go ahead and say delete it. Deleting the delete marker is going to help me retrieve the file back. There we go. I have deleted the delete marker, and I'll go ahead and refresh this, and I'll click on versions as hide, and you'll be able to see that the latest version of the file with the 38 bytes has been available now, right? So this is how I'll be able to recover the file if someone has accidentally deleted it. So versioning actually helps me to store each and every version of the object. It helps me to recover the file which has been accidentally deleted by someone else. And now if I want to go back to previous version, let's say I want to go back to version number 1. So it's very simple. I can just go ahead and click on this and then say maybe I just want to go ahead and download it to my system, so I get the version 1. But if I want to make the version 1 as default for all the people who want to use this bucket, it's very simple. I just click on the version 2 and then say delete from here. So this is going to permanently delete it because you're already at versions as show, right? So now I was being able to delete the version 2 which was of 34 bytes. Now I have made the first version of the file as a default in this bucket, which is of 17 bytes. So these are the use cases that are in which I'll be able to make the best use of versioning. So it helps me to retrieve the deleted data. It also helps me to go back to a specific version of the file. Any questions or doubts here before we close the session for the day? Divya, Kirti, Rahul, Shiva, any doubts?
Hi, Pawan.
Yes, Shiva.
Yeah, I have a doubt about from this version. That's
Mhm.
can we create a console modified as like some other tools service now as like can we customize the things what we mostly using the I mean like S3 and some other objects here we have right services point of can we create like this way bookmarking in the AWS console.
Bookmarking the
In AWS console, in our main console, do we have an option like that?
specific object you're telling?
Yeah, specific.
I don't think that bookmarking is available. Currently, the bookmarking is available for the services. You can click on this and you will be able to drag and drop any service for the bookmarks for now.
Okay.
For specific object or bucket, it is not available.
Not a bucket pointer. Here we can see in ServiceNow some other tools. The client, if they needed customized pages, I mean in the console, customized modeling.
Okay,
They
that you're
don't want
no,
to,
no.
yeah, they
For
don't
that
want to
you have
look
to
like these AWS
you have
services.
to third-party tool.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, for that you have to use the third-party tool.
Okay.
Hmm. So for that we have third-party tools like S3 browser is available. There are some companies which are actually building the tools with the help of which you can integrate with the S3. So there is one website s3browser.com. This is a S3 client for Windows. So if some people want to directly use this kind of browser, they'll be able to go ahead and download it. So it is going to give you an overview on how we can create our own. They have built their own UI basically in a easiest format, which can actually help you to navigate across. Okay, then so we'll close the session for the day here, and yeah, I have shared the PPTs across with the visual part team, so I'll ask them to share it with you guys on your Gmail IDs, so that should help. So thanks all. Have a great day, and we'll meet back tomorrow again at the same time in the morning to explore the next part of our S3 section.